and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot to get to today, including Donald Trump's visit to Las Vegas. Yes, that's right. He was in Las Vegas, and we have the coverage for you, and we will share it all with you coming up here in just a few minutes, and a lot of other topics to discuss, including an executive order that would not allow transgenders to be serving in the military anymore. We'll be talking about that and, of course, much, much more. So I was in a space a few weeks ago. As you all know, I do some of these MAGA spaces from time to time. And one of those people that was in one of those spaces is former Congressman George Santos. Believe it or not, we actually had a pretty respectful 10 to 15-minute conversation. We spoke off the air, and I asked him to come on the show to talk about a number of different topics. And he agreed to do so. We had a pleasant conversation on the phone the other day. So I wanted to start off the show and get right into it with the former Congressman, George Santos, who was nice enough to join us on the show on a Monday. George, I do appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you so much. How are you? George, I think you're muted, so you got to put your microphone on because we can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
There you go. There you go.
You do it live. I just wanted to say thank you for having me. And it looks like you had fun this weekend in Vegas.
I did. I had a lot of fun. The AVN Expo was here, and it is a very, very good time, George. I highly recommend it for anybody. All seriousness, I do appreciate you being here and talking with us. And there's a lot to get to. I want to start off by asking you this. Donald Trump was in Las Vegas over the weekend, and one of his VIP guests was a guy by the name of Stewart Rhodes, who is the leader of the Oath Keepers. I wanted to ask you, what do you make of the fact that he's surrounding himself with these people and inviting them to a rally in Las Vegas? Is that uncomfortable for you? What are your thoughts on that?
So look, Brian, I want to be fair. I only learned about the Oath Keepers around 2021. I was very unaware that they even existed. And then I actually attended a meeting locally just to understand what they were all about. I mean, I learned a whole lot of how to pickle stuff, paranoia, and that we were going to go into doomsday preparation. I left the place feeling like, yeesh, some people live like this, but to each their own. And I tend to want to relate and level with everybody in every way manageable. Per this gentleman being a VIP, I just want to be very sincere with you. Those VIP passes don't necessarily equate to A, President Trump invited him, B, it's usually some local staffer who thinks he's going to do a great thing and giving VIP passes out to somebody. And then that's when you end up with situations like this. Very similar to when Milo Yiannopoulos took Nick Fuentes to Mar-a-Lago without President Trump being aware. So I'm not trying to cover for him. I'm just saying that a lot of these things are organizational things done by staffers who don't know any better. I don't think President Trump really even kind of shares the values of the Oath Keepers. I'm a New York Republican. I kind of feel like I think a lot like him in many ways. Obviously, we differ on some issues. But
George, would you be comfortable if you were in Congress right now, having people like that were charged and convicted of seditious conspiracy, those who physically assaulted police officers on January 6th, which I know you've never defended that type of violence, but these people are being invited to the halls of Congress where you used to work? Would you have been comfortable with that? And are you comfortable with it now?
Look, I made my point very clear. I supported the pardons for the J6ers. I held issue with 12 individuals, right? Tasing a police officer in the neck. Sorry, I'm a back to blue. If I was able to turn the camera and show you, you know what? I'm just going to do it since we're live, right? I keep that right there for a reason. It was a gift to me from a police officer, and I hang it here in my office because I believe in it. I'm not a cop. So I find that troubling. It's not necessarily people that I would associate with. Look, it's the people's house. Criminals go in there every single day. They're called members of Congress. So if we're going to be honest about it, the standard in the halls of Congress have dropped so low historically at this point that, I mean, I wouldn't invite them. And I've invited January 6 families and people who were in D.C. for their sentencing or whatnot. And I did so because I was duly elected to hear people. I was a representative of Congress, and I do not regret that. I had great conversations with family members and with some people who I personally, Brian, and I told you this, believe were wrongly charged. I mean, if you're standing in a lawn taking videos, is that really interfering with it?
I don't George, sorry to interrupt. I don't disagree with you when it comes to some of those cases, but for me, I have a problem with violent criminals. And as you know, it was more than 12 people who attacked police officers, who committed violent crimes that day. And I guess my question to you is, are you okay with somebody that was not only charged, but convicted of a violent crime, either beating a cop with his own baton, peppering somebody with bear spray, you name it? Are you okay with those individuals? Not the ones that you're talking about that were taking pictures. I get that. Those who committed violent crimes that day, Donald Trump pardoning those people. Are you okay with them being out on the streets today?
Look, I don't condone violence, right? And I think President Trump and any other president have the bully pulpit and the pleasure of doing as they please with their pardon powers. So I'm not going to hold it against him. It's his purview. It's within his. I would have probably thought slightly different. And I do believe he gave commutations to a lot of these people who are more on the violent side, which I think is they did time. In some cases, I think they did enough time. In some cases, I think they didn't. But look, it's not a yes or no question. For me, I'm not comfortable with it in the simple fact of, will they do this again? That is always that question that comes to mind.
Well, yeah. And if they would you hold Donald Trump partially responsible?
No, I can't hold President Trump responsible for the actions of other people. Absolutely not. I wouldn't hold that against President Biden, Obama, and so on and so forth.
Understood. But if Donald Trump didn't say that the election was stolen, which, as you know, was not, does January 6th happen? If he doesn't lie months before January 6th and say, I won in a landslide, Joe Biden cheated, the Democrats cheated, do you think those people are there? Does January 6th even happen?
Look, I look at it this way. I was in D.C. on January 6th. I just wasn't at the Capitol. I'm not the riot type guy. I'm non-confrontational. So I say this. I think that the 2020 election was contentious. We've had contentious elections in the past. Emotions were really out there. I was at the Ellipse, so I got to see it firsthand. I don't necessarily blame anybody. Nobody is responsible for everybody's own bad judgment. That's how I look at it, right? And we've had this before. It's not like it's novel. It's never happened to the point that happened on January 6th, but we've become almost very accustomed to riot culture in America. You can go back to 2020 with the George Floyd riots. You can go back to Stonewall. I mean, it really started in Stonewall, right, in New York City. So it's like riots have almost become a way of doing things. I don't necessarily condone it, but look, to each their own. I don't hold anybody accountable for an adult's individual actions. I just think people should answer for their own actions individually and by themselves, and I don't blame it on anyone.
So speaking of that, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this question. I think a lot of people want to know, and I'm not here to talk about your past and things you have said.
Hey, we can.
Well, I know, but I didn't want to do a 20-minute interview rehashing all the other interviews you've done because I think that's a waste of time. But I will ask you this. Are you looking for a pardon from Donald Trump? What are your thoughts on that? A lot of people wanted me to ask you that question.
Oh, look, I think it's a fair question. It's not something that was top of my mind until last week when I was a victim I'm not saying I'm a victim in general, but in a particular court case, I was a victim in the Eastern District of New York, and the judge ruling over it decided to take my letter, my victim impact statement, and slander me and walk all over me. And that really sent a chill down my spine saying, wow, if a judge in a case where I actually helped bring a perpetrator to justice is voicing out his bias and opinion against me in such a vitriolic fashion, I'm in trouble. And now definitely exploring trying to seek a pardon from President Trump for sure.
Do you think he will give you one? What do you think your chances are?
I don't know. I just want to be realistic with my expectations. I leave it in the.
Gotcha.
I kind of throw it up to God. I'm like, hey, you do what you think is right, And
I don't know. I don't know exactly what you did criminally or not. I know you've owned to doing some things, and I think you've said some, for lack of a better term, you've said some embellished, stupid things in the past. I think you would be the first one to admit that.
He was the first one to admit it, yeah. On national television.
But I also, listen, I'm not defending you, but I will say this. There are a lot of people in Washington, D.C. right now that are in office that have done far worse than anything you have ever done in your life. And I will be the first one to say that. With that being said, though, you did, and I laugh because some of the stuff is ridiculous. You did get a lot of crap for saying you played college volleyball. You went to a university that you didn't go to. I don't want to bring your mom into this because you explained to me how she had lost her life, and I'm very sorry for that. So I don't even want to talk about that. But you did say some things in the past that were a little bit ridiculous. You'd be the first one to admit that, right?
I was the first one to admit it. Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Always. Oh,
What-
look, I say this. I'm not proud of a lot of things, right? I think that's fair to say, and that goes without saying. You live with the consequences of your actions, and I'm going to live with this for the rest of my life. It's not something that's ever going to go away. And it's unfortunate because I'm 36 years old, and I don't know what the hell I was going through, but I learned one thing. Ambition can sometimes be the most dangerous thing over someone's better judgment, and I fell into that trap. And unfortunately,
Understood. So I spoke to you a little bit about this off the air because I'll be honest with you. I thought it was kind of funny. You go on Cameo like a Matt Gaetz and others. And listen, there's a lot of money to be made.
I started it.
You did, George. And then Jimmy Kimmel and others are in a way clowning you by paying you to say things to make people laugh. And I'll be the first one to admit I laughed at some of those videos. I thought it was kind of funny. But you have filed a lawsuit, right, against Jimmy Kimmel. Can you explain that and where that is at right now?
Well, here's the deal. It's a federal lawsuit. The judge dismissed it under the guises of fair use. The very same day that it leaked that I got a plea. I'm not going to get into semantics whether she did it because she had bias or not, but that happened, right? We appealed it. It's in the Court of Appeals now in the Second Circuit, which is overseen by Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Okay. The guises of the lawsuit is simple. It's a copyright and licensing infringement. He breached contract on Cameo, and he defrauded me in the sense of he signed an agreement for personal use cameos, knowingly that he had the intent to use them for broadcast and for monetizing the videos, which is a completely different agreement. And he did so by creating these stupid, ridiculous texts that I read. I'm thinking people are just trolling friends or whatever. And I'm like, hey, let's go. Turns out it's actually him doing it. So he used a false pretenses to gain a product to then fabricate it to be public fair use, when in reality, he orchestrated the creation of the product. So it's not really fair use. It's the equivalent of me asking you, let me commission a painting of an elephant in a tutu wearing a Republican pin on it, and then buy it from you, post it in some museum, and then criticize you for drawing it. It's the same thing. It's not fair use. I entrap you into creating that only to then go make fun of you and mock you. So that's what we're fighting. It's new. It's definite. There's no precedent. So we're trying to create precedent to protect smaller creators from big corporations and bullies like Jimmy Kimmel.
Understood. Give us an update on where that goes. So I know we only have about 5 to 10 more minutes left to go here. I want to talk about Donald Trump and some of his policies. I wanted to get your thoughts today. He's signing an executive order to ban transgenders to serve in the military. I find this repulsive because I believe I don't care what's between your legs, George. If you are willing to risk your life to serve this country and you could pass any test necessary, then I think you should be allowed to serve. And I find this to be just despicable. I wanted to know what your thoughts are on this.
So my understanding is it's not an alt-right ban. It's just a limit from active duty and combat. Right. They don't want to send trans people into combat because there has been reports coming out that were absolutely covered up in the previous administration with the previous Secretary of Defense. And I actually spoke with colleagues who've seen the report now, is that there's a lot of the medications that some of these individuals have to take can cause sense of delusion. And you don't want to send somebody that's vulnerable like that into the battlefield. So they can continue to serve desk jobs back home and serve our country honorably. And I thank them for that. And I'll be the first one to advocate for that. But in the sense of medical professionals and reports that were not really made fully transparent to the American people, I don't think it's in the best interest of us creating a liability sending folks like that into the
so I hear you, but I would say, obviously, that's not for every transgender, not every transgender. Not. Yeah, but he's making a blatant thing saying all transgenders can't serve on the battlefield. So that would be number one. Number two, you have to admit that there are people that are not transgender that are certainly on antidepressants, certainly on other medications that could cause delusion. I just think it's just a a blanket thing saying all transgenders, they can't serve in the military. I think that's so despicable.
There's ways to make it better, Brian. I'm not going to argue with you on that. I think, like, here's a way to make it argue. I think that nobody that fails to pass a psychiatric evaluation should be on the battlefield.
I think they should do that with the presidency too, but that's another story. But anyway,
well, then we wouldn't have had a couple of presidents serve in recent times. So,
in my opinion, currently the one that's in there right now. But I want to ask you about this because, look, George, he's a 34 count felon. He's a liable sexual abuser. We know this. And I know you disagree with those cases. I understand that. But this is a guy who dodged the military, who's got a ton of women that have accused him of sexual assault or rape. And this is also a man in office today who has a bunch of yes people around him. Look what he's doing with some of these executive orders. He said he would end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. I knew that wasn't going to happen. He makes all these false promises. He did it in 2016. We're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. I'm going to hire a special prosecutor to go after Hillary Clinton. I mean, you have to be willing to at least admit to me that he's not going to be able to fulfill all of his promises.
I mean, look, politicians make a lot of promises. They do best efforts. I was a politician. I made promises. I couldn't fulfill all of them. Obviously, I was cut short. Let's call him that way. But
you were. That's true.
But here's what I'll say. As far as campaign rhetoric, sometimes we just got to pay attention to one thing. Campaign rhetoric is nothing more than campaign rhetoric. And I think we spoke about this when I was on the phone with you, and a lot of politicians are guilty of doing it, right? So I don't want to make this as it's an exclusive issue only for President Trump. I will say this, though. I don't believe he's surrounded by yes men, matter of fact. I think his chief of staff is actually, there's a reason her nickname is the Ice Maiden, is because she's a strong woman. Susie Wiles is really laying the hammer down on making sure that there's no signs of impropriety, and she's doing a fantastic job. I mean, reports are coming out that Elon thought he was going to have an office in the West Wing, and she said, you're in the Eisenhower building. So that's a great obvious show of no, Trump's not he's not up for purchase by anyone just because you're Elon Musk or whoever you are, right? Yeah. And I'm saying that this is really important to point out because nobody wants to give a fair shake to the chief of staff who's doing a fantastic job, and she's an incredible, powerful, strong woman. Secondly, as far as Donald Trump goes in sexual assault, here's my opinion. I'm not going to vouch for anybody's Johnson, okay? But I will say this. It's funny how he was always a notable celebrity, powerful, billionaire Donald Trump. And only when he gets involved with politics do all these accusations come running down. Like, why wasn't he already being attacked back then for money?
He was. Well, he was, though, George, because his ex-wife, way before he got into public office or ran for office, accused him of rape. There were other women that have accused him of sexual assault or rape. He's been sued thousands of times for discrimination. Many lawsuits and civil suits paid out because he didn't want black people living in his residencies in New York. You know that. He's had a lot of these scandals happen. Now, maybe it wasn't as public as it is now. I'll give you that. But he certainly had accusations way back then as well, including going into a woman's locker room with a bunch of teenage girls because he owned the pageant. He talked about this on the Howard Stern. So he went in there without permission, watching 16 and 17-year-old girls undressing. I mean, this is just, in my opinion, despicable behavior. George, if that was your daughter, you wouldn't want that to happen. Look, he just goes in there.
Look, I'll put it this way. I look at everybody. We're all humans. We all have flaws if that's the case here. I don't believe a lot of the things out there about President Trump. I've had the opportunity to engage with him, Brian, and I've met a man that is not just kind, he's humble. I've been to many of his properties throughout the years. His staff loves him, and the majority of them are minorities. I'm saying this literally because I talk to the staff. I'm that one guy that, as a server's coming by with whatever, pig on a blanket, whatever, or my John, like, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Slip them a $20 bill. Well, you know how that works, right? In service. So I try to be as generous and kind to them, and they love him. He's the best. We love him. He gives us opportunities. I mean, how can a man that has so many people love him be, on retrospect, through the media, essentially be demonized? I don't buy it. I'm sorry. Look,
but you know that for all the people that love him, there are a lot of people, including members of his own family, and a lot of people that do not like him, including half of his administration that worked for him back when he took office. Half of them that wouldn't even support him. His own vice president, former vice president Mike Pence, who wouldn't even support him. There's a lot of people, George, as you know, that used to be in his inner circle that want absolutely nothing to do with him. So I'm not saying that you're not right in the sense that there are a lot of people that love him, but there are also a lot of people that at one point that were very close to him that hate him. You would
But
agree with
Brian,
that as well.
well, but let's say that's the truth for me, and I'm pretty sure it could be the truth for you. We have people in times in our lives that we agree with, and then we part ways from. Like it's not an uncommon thread for a human being to go through a cycle of people in their lives that.
But it is uncommon. I agree with you, George, but it is uncommon for half of somebody's administration when that person runs again to not support him, including his former vice president. And a lot of these things he's owned up to. In fact, what I just mentioned, he bragged, George, on the Howard Stern show sexually, going into these locker rooms and bragging about looking at a bunch of teenage girls naked. He bragged about grabbing women by the genitals. A lot of these things he's owned up to. So I understand there are some things that you don't agree with, that you don't believe, but and I also agree with you when you say not everybody's perfect. We all have our flaws, no doubt. But George, I don't know about you. I've never gone into a woman's locker room intentionally and then bragged about it in a sexual nature. If I went into a locker room accidentally and I saw women undressing, I would get the hell out of there and I would apologize. I wouldn't be bragging about it on a radio show. Isn't this who Donald Trump is?
I mean, look, as a gay man who girls often say, can you come help me with my hair? And they're like naked. I'm like, okay, can you put something on?
George, exactly, because you wouldn't do that, right? And this is a different context. But I mean, look, it is what it is. I want to bring that up before I let you go, George, and I know you got to run, and I appreciate you being here. As you being an openly gay man, most of those in the Republican Party, especially those on the evangelical right, they call you a sinner. They judge you because of your sexuality. I am not one of those people. I don't care what your sexuality is. I don't care what you're attracted to. I want you to be left alone and live your life. You want to marry a guy, go ahead. You want to marry whoever you want to marry, so long as it's legal. Why is it that so many in your party think that you're a sinner for just being gay? I find that disgusting.
Look, I ran as an openly gay Republican in New York's 3rd District. I've never once experienced that. I served in the 118th Congress with 222 other people. And I can say I've never once had anyone discriminate against me. Matter of fact, I've been a Republican my whole life. I've never once had a discrimination against me. Some of the most conservative members of the House Republican Party in the very conservative Freedom Caucus were some of my best friends and remain some of my best friends. I don't think that matters. I think it's about respecting the institutions and traditions. And here's what I say, Brian. The biggest issue we have in our country is that we allowed government to overstep the church by simply allowing marriage to become the business of the government, when in fact, we used to issue civil unions. That's why I'm an open critic of marriage, heterosexual, homosexual, being conducted by the government. I think those should go back to being what they used to be, civil union statements and civil union agreements, and marriage goes back to the church. I think it's about respecting tradition, and there's nothing wrong. Everybody should be afforded equal rights. So because the government did make marriage its business and gays and heterosexual people pay taxes equally, we all have to benefit of the same benefits. And that's simple. And I've made that argument. And a lot of my very conservative colleagues said, you have a fantastic point. We screwed up. We should have tackled this from a different angle. And it wouldn't have created hate or vitriol or everything you've seen, Brian, right? Yeah, look, here's literally what I pray for and what I look forward to in this country. Can we all just find common ground in the 70% center of what we all agree on and stop allowing the 30% in either sides of our fringes to control the narrative? It is so much more productive to go in the middle. That's how I look at it.
Understood. George, I know you got to run. A couple of fun questions, I guess. Who is your least favorite person that you were forced to work with in Congress when you were there?
Oh, my God. Nicholas LaLota, the congressman from New York's 1st District. He's absolutely ghastly, a horrible person, god-awful. And I mean, quite hard on the eyes, too. But just saying, like, a very, very, very unpleasant person to work with. I couldn't put words to describe how difficult it is.
Most two-faced person that is the opposite behind closed doors and completely different in front of a camera. Who would that be?
Every single one of them. But okay, hold on. Okay.
That I believe.
Most two-faced person, Jamie Raskin. I love Jamie, and this is not a dig at Jamie, but I'm just saying you're so nice to me behind the camera, and you give me motivational speeches and quotes, and you give me nice little text messages. Camera turns on, George Santos a disgrace. I'm like, what the hell happened to the comeback kid comment from like 20 minutes ago? So, I mean, look, it's politics, right? But if I'm really going to say two-faced, Congresswoman Lisa McClain from Michigan. She's now the secretary of the conference. And she straight up told me that she thought the expulsion vote was gibberish, was garbage, that no due process. And then she voted to expel me.
That is two-faced. I will give you that, George. Well, listen, I do appreciate you taking the time to come on. I'd love to do this again sometime down the road.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you on, Brian.
And I appreciate your candidacy. I know you've made your mistakes in the past, but I will say this again. There are people that have done far worse than you that are representing their constituents right now in office. And, you know, I think there are a lot of other people out there that are far more dangerous to people than people might think you are. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your candidacy and love to have you on again down the road, George. And maybe I can get a free cameo one of these days.
You know what? I'll give you the cameo. Just send me what you want. And lastly, I'll come back on, and I'm going to come on until I make you concede that Donald Trump's great for this country. How about that?
My God, George. I don't.
Policies are fantastic, Brian.
I think there's no. We'll talk about that next time. There's a better chance that I win the lottery, but you know,
hey, I'm very persuasive.
George, I appreciate your time, my friend. I know you got to get going, but thank you so much, George, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
Thank you, Brian. Take care.
Appreciate it. That's George Santos, everybody, former congressman. Good luck. Yeah, good luck trying to get me to admit that Donald Trump's policies. Guess what? We're going to get to that right now. That wasn't on my bingo card last week. I did not think George Santos was going to do this show, but actually I do appreciate the conversation. I know he's done some things in the past that a lot of people disapprove of. I know he's said a lot of things that are not true. He's owned that. And as far as criminally, we'll let the court system play out the way it is. But I enjoy interviewing all sorts of different people, George Santos being one of them. Controversial? Yes. I've also interviewed people like Anthony Weiner and plenty of controversial figures on this show. So Donald Trump made an appearance in Las Vegas over the weekend. And he invited the leader of the Oath Keepers, apparently. He said America was at its wealthiest in the 1800s. Said he wanted to talk about how attractive some waitresses. Did you hear about this? I'll play that audio for you. But then he said if he talked about it, he would be canceled. He talked about serving multiple times as president, more than twice. And that's why people always say he's a threat to democracy. Very weird there. He said he may just have no taxes at all, since he says tariffs will replace it, which is absurd. He says he planned to expand the size of America, implying that he will invade our allies, which is absolutely bat-you-know-what crazy. He mentioned, it is interesting, all these things that he talked about. He also said he was proud to release the January 6th hostages. He said he was happy he pulled America out of the WHO and the Paris Climate Agreement, which is insane. But of all the things he did talk about, I do find it very interesting over the weekend. He didn't talk about lowering the price of gases. He didn't talk about inflation. He didn't talk about getting out of Ukraine, out of this war. Interesting, isn't it? So this was the point in the speech over the weekend where Donald Trump talked about bringing back religion as if it's lost. Have a listen to this.
America will be respected again and admired again, including by the people of religion, faith, and goodwill. We're bringing back religion in this country. We will be prosperous.
Yeah, because if anybody should be talking about religion and bringing back religion, it certainly should be the orange orangutan, 34-count felon, Donald Trump. What is he talking about? Religion isn't gone. You can go to church. You could go to synagogue. You can pray. What is he talking about? When people criticize religion, people like me, it's when they can't separate church from state. That's when I talk about religion, where people force stuff upon me. If you want to be in your home or your church or your synagogue or whatever and pray, go ahead and pray until the cows come home. I don't care. So I don't know what he's talking about when he says we're bringing back religion. It's really strange. And here's an interesting point in the speech over the weekend, because he talked about other countries emptying their prisons, right? Emptying their prisons of criminals. There's a reason why I'm playing this clip, but have a listen to this.
About that, I said, everybody's going to empty out their prisons into our country. I said that. I'd do that if I were heading up any one of the many countries that you know about, not just South America, all over. They take their prisons, their mental institutions, and they empty them out into our country. Can you imagine a person doing this? Can you imagine somebody doing that to our country?
Wait a second. Do I have Alzheimer's? Am I forgetting here? Or is it Donald Trump that has Alzheimer's? Didn't he just empty the prisoners? Didn't he just get pardon 1,500 January 6th insurrectionists, including 600 of them that are violent criminals? Oh, yeah. Wait a second. He bragged about that a few moments later.
Pardoned hundreds of political prisoners who had been viciously persecuted by the Biden regime. Hundreds of people were persecuted, including Christians, pro-life activists, 2 Washington, D.C. police officers just yesterday, whose lives were destroyed from chasing down a dangerous illegal alien criminal. And of course, I was very proud to pardon the J6 hostages.
How about all those idiots in the crowd that are laughing? I'm so embarrassed to be here in Las Vegas. What about all those morons, those idiots in the crowd that are laughing and they think it's a good thing that Donald Trump pardoned so many violent criminals, some of whom beat police officers on January 6th. And then a few minutes earlier, he's saying, can you imagine all these people? Can you imagine all these people out there that are releasing dangerous criminals? They're emptying their prisons. Meanwhile, this is the same guy who did it. He did it in the United States of America. You cannot make this stuff up. And why is he even holding this thing? It's like a rally, right? You're already president, you orangutan. Why are you holding a rally? Shouldn't you be working? That's another thing that I don't understand. Maybe he's back at Mar-a-Lago now playing golf. But this is another weird part of this, not press conference, rally. It was a campaign rally, like he's still running for office. It's so bizarre. And he starts talking about this waitress that he spoke about, and he starts talking about her looks. This is really bizarre behavior.
That's what happened. I'm telling you, a young waitress, I won't say beautiful because you're not allowed to say that as a politician. Used to be you could say a young, beautiful waitress. This was a young, beautiful waitress, but I won't say that because I feel like I want to continue my political career. If you call the governor won't say it. If you call a woman beautiful today, it's the end of your political career, so I won't do it. But a young waitress, I think you can call young. You're probably not even supposed to say young. Probably supposed to say a waitress. But a young waitress came up and I said, how are you doing? And in my restaurant in the hotel.
Listen to those idiots laughing like hyenas in the background to their orange orangutan liable sexual abusing felon. They think he's funny. First of all, you're not canceled anywhere by calling somebody beautiful. He's lying. Once again, a young, beautiful waitress. Nobody's going to cancel you for saying that. You should be canceled for bragging about sexual assault, grabbing women by the P word. You should be canceled by, or at least for running for office, for attacking women on looks. Yeah, that you shouldn't be doing. That's the kind of stuff that the orange orangutan does. But calling somebody a beautiful waitress, no, you're not getting canceled for that. Yeah, how is that no tax on tips thing working? I wonder how that's going to work out. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to implement that. And here's where the crowd is so stupid. That's why I couldn't even go to this thing. I was doing more fun things that I'll leave privately to myself right now. But I was doing things that were far more enjoyable than going to this stupid orange orangutan's, another one of his stupid rallies. I thought these rallies would be over with. Listen to how dumb the crowd is. Listen to how stupid these people are that are listening to him speak his gibberish when he starts bragging about withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord and the World Health Organization.
First, I withdrew from the World Health Organization, where we paid $500 million a year and China paid $39 million a year, despite a much larger population. Think of that. China's paying $39 million to have 1.4 billion people. We pay $500 million. We have, nobody knows what the hell we have. Does anyone know? We have so many people pouring in. We have no idea.
Yeah, I guarantee you the people that are in that crowd that are cheering and laughing don't even know the WHO. They don't even know, maybe the band. They don't know the World Health Organization. They have no idea what he is talking about. And here's where he talks about the Paris Climate Accord.
I withdrew from the one-sided Paris Climate Accord. Canceled the insane and costly electric vehicle mandate.
Again, they clap and they have absolutely no idea what they're clapping about. If Donald Trump at this stupid rally, at this Klan rally, said that he signed an executive order, which he did, by the way, not wanting to lower the prescription of drugs that you would get in pharmacies. And if he bragged about that, they would clap about it. I'm making sure that you guys aren't going to pay less for your prescription drugs. They would actually clap at that. That's what he did. Joe Biden, everything in his power, capping the cost of insulin at $35 and trying to do everything he can so that Medicaid can negotiate with the pharmaceutical companies so that your drugs can be cheaper. And Donald Trump signed an executive order to abolish that. If he bragged about that, which he didn't, but if he bragged about it, I guarantee you these people in the crowd are so stupid that they would start clapping. Hey, I'm going to make sure you have to pay more for gas. They would start clapping. I'm going to make sure you're going to have to pay more for your prescription drugs. They would start clapping because these people are cultist idiots. That's what they are. And this is why so many people, not just on the left, but people like myself that are anti-Donald Trump say he's a threat to democracy. Find me a former president that says it'd be nice to serve 3 or 4 times. Have a listen to this.
Said you went from being a real estate developer to the president. That's a pretty big, I never thought of it that way. I guess I'm the most upwardly mobile politician in history. I didn't make any stops along the way. It will be the greatest honor of my life to serve not once, but twice, or 3 times, or 4 times. So. Headlines from the fake news. Now it will be to serve twice. For the next 4 years, I will not rest, I will not yield, and together we will not fail, we will win.
Yeah, he won't rest. He won't yield. He'll be sitting, eating his KFC, playing golf at Mar-a-Lago every day. He already has over the last couple days, played a lot of golf at Mar-a-Lago. But yeah, he won't rest at all, sure. But he'll do campaign rallies. Already president of the United States, not able to run again, even joking about running 3 or 4 times. Listen, there's always some seriousness in a joke. And Donald Trump is not joking. He would like to be a dictator. He would like to run 3 or 4 times. And he's the one who interjected and brought up Adolf Hitler. Maybe he's been talking to Elon Musk about that Hitler salute. Maybe it's just a matter of time. And the lies just continue. Now he's talking about getting rid of taxes altogether. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. Have a listen to what he said about that.
To the border. Yeah. She said no tax, and then how about just no tax? You know, if the tariffs work out like I think, a thing like that could happen if you want to know the truth. You know, years ago, 1870 to 1913, we didn't have an income tax. What we had is tariffs where foreign countries came in and they stole our jobs, they stole our companies, they stole our product, they ripped us off. And, you know, they used to do numbers, and then we went to a tariff system. And the tariff system made so much money. It was when we were the richest from 1870 to 1913. Then we came to the book.
Okay, these people believe anything the orange orangutan says. Anything. If he says, guys, I'm going to get rid of taxes altogether, they clap and they cheer because they're stupid. If he says that he's going to deport 20 million people, they cheer, they clap. When he says he's going to hire a special prosecutor to convict Hillary Clinton, they cheer, they laugh. We're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. They cheer. They believe every single word he says because the average IQ of the person that was at that rally over the weekend is around 20. These are very stupid people. These are people that are very bigoted, racist in nature. These are people that have been brainwashed by not just Donald Trump, but the Newsmaxes of the world, the Fox News, the Jesse Waters, the Judge Janines. They're very stupid people. Now, I can sit here and try to break it down and say, geez, why did Democrats lose? Why did Kamala Harris lose? And there are plenty of reasons why she lost, and I've talked about that ad nauseum. But the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of people in this country, like the people that were at that Klan rally in Las Vegas over the weekend, that are very stupid people. Brian, you're simplifying things. You're damn right I am. We can get into the weeds on all the reasons why Kamala Harris lost, but there are a lot of people in this country that are very ill-informed. There are a lot of people in this country that are very uneducated, and there are a lot of people in this country that have been duped by a 34-count felon liable sexual abuser. I'm not going to get into the weeds anymore. That is the bottom line. The overwhelming majority of those people that were at that rally in Las Vegas over the weekend are ignorant, stupid, grand wizard fools is what they are. They're very dumb. Oh, Brian, you keep talking like that. That's how Democrats are going to lose. No, I keep talking like that because it's truth. No matter who wins or lose, I'm always going to speak truth on this show. And most of the people, not all, but most of the people that voted for Donald Trump are very stupid. They're the people at his rallies that clap when he talks about saying that he's going to get rid of taxes. They're very stupid, dumb people. Period. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. And I want to get right into the phone calls. We just had George Santos on to start the show. That was an interesting conversation. I knew it would be. So I'm sure George will probably come back. I do want that free cameo. And we've been talking about Donald Trump's visit to Las Vegas, so we will take some phone calls now. As we always do, it's the most interactive show, not just in Las Vegas, but I would argue across the country. We take calls all over the country and basically all over the world every day. All right, let's get right down to it. Let's start off with JD. JD is first up on PTL. Hello, JD.
Hello. Glad you had a nice weekend. You keep talking about Trump's pardoning these violent people in the January 6th. Are you aware of the man from your home state in Connecticut, Andrew Miller, who killed an 8-year-old child and his mother that Biden pardoned?
So we're going to do whataboutism again. JD, No. Hold on. I'll answer your question. First of all, if you actually listen to this show every day, which I know you do, I've criticized and called out Joe Biden for his pardons. I've also said that I don't think presidents should have the power of pardons, but I do find it interesting that every single time I criticize Donald Trump, you're the first person to call in to talk about Joe Biden. So, JD, here's the deal. Even though I've addressed that, and I don't agree with any of those pardons, in the first few days of Donald Trump in office, he has pardoned violent criminals. So I want to know, you are the person who said, when you called into this show a few weeks ago, you made a promise, and you said if he does pardon violent criminals on January 6th, which you said you didn't agree with, that you would call into the show and call him out for it. But instead, you called into this show and decided to talk about Joe Biden. So why are you a liar, JD?
You asked me how I felt about that, and I answered
and you
the question,
said that,
I said I don't like him pardoning violent criminals.
But the first thing that you did, JD, is you wanted to bring up a pardon of Joe Biden. It's called whataboutism. And not only
it's not.
Yes, it
No,
is.
Not.
The topic today is Donald Trump. Excuse me. The president of the United States is Donald Trump. You said a few weeks ago that you would call out Donald Trump on this show if he pardoned violent criminals from January 6th. And the first thing you utter out of your mouth when talking about those pardons is not to address Donald Trump. It's not to address those despicable pardons, but to talk about Joe Biden. Guess what, JD? Joe Biden is not the president anymore. Donald Trump is. And in the last week, he decided to pardon over 600 violent criminals on January 6th, those who beat police officers. But you want to talk about Joe Biden. He's decided to ban transgenders from serving on the battlefield. He has decided that it's going to be okay for people like you to spend more money on pharmaceutical drugs. He signed an executive order, but you still want to talk about Joe Biden. And every single time Donald Trump does something wrong or says something terrible or makes a terrible decision, are you going to talk about Joe Biden on this show, or are you going to talk about the current president? I want to know.
Well, I got one sentence out. I'm just trying to make a comparison where
there is no comparison.
Trump hasn't pardoned any FBI killers like he did in Leonard Pelletier, two
Donald
FBI
Trump,
agents.
there you go again. It's like this guy has bird for brains and he can't listen. Donald Trump has also pardoned murderers. I've talked about that on this show, which obviously you are either ignorant to or so biased you won't talk about it. He literally pardoned people who killed innocent Iraqi civilians. He pardoned those people in his first administration. So I'm not going to play this whataboutism game for you. And by the way, there is no moral equivalence between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Joe Biden's never been convicted of a crime. He's never been found liable for sexual abuse. There is no moral equivalency between the orange turd that you voted for and Joe Biden. So are you going to remain on topic, or are you just going to play whataboutism every single time Donald Trump does something despicable. And pardoning violent criminals on January 6th, JD, is despicable. Why can't you say that? It's horrible. Why can't you admit it?
Well, first of all, violent criminals and murderers are two different things. Two FBI agents. And
there he
in your
goes
home
again.
state,
You are not capable, are you? You are not capable of, by the way, a violent crime can be considered murder, okay? Violent crime is murder, so I have no idea what the hell you are talking about. And you keep going back to Joe Biden. You are not capable of saying what Donald Trump did was horrible. He should not have pardoned those who beat police officers and were convicted of seditious conspiracy. Why can't you say that? You're like a broken record. Why won't you repeat after me? Because I know you know it's wrong, because you admitted it a few weeks ago that if he said it, you would call it out, which you're not doing now. Why can't you admit it was not just wrong, but despicable for those who attacked Capitol Police on January 6th to be pardoned? That question has nothing to do with Joe Biden. It has nothing to do with Democrats, and it has everything to do with the news of this week. Why won't you admit what he did was wrong?
Why are you changing my words? I've already said 3 times or 4 times that you've asked me that
The first thing you said,
I agree with you.
the first thing you said on this show, JD, was not saying, listen.
That has nothing to do with your question.
No, it does. It has everything to do with it, because the topic is Donald Trump's pardons, not Joe Biden's pardons. But the first thing you did was say, well, what about? That's the first. Now, if the first thing you said was, let me give you a lesson, JD, on people that I'll respect and people I don't respect. For example, the first thing you said was, Brian, I agree with you. I called you a few weeks ago. I was hoping he wouldn't pardon the violent criminal. He did. I think it's despicable. I think it's wrong. I did disagree with a lot of the pardons of Joe Biden. I would agree with you, JD, and I would say, you're right. Thank you for your honesty. But the first thing you do, like so many other MAGA clowns that call into this show, and yes, JD, you are a MAGA clown. The first thing you want to do is talk about Joe Biden. The first thing you want to do is talk about Joe Biden's pardons. The first thing you don't say is his pardons, the January 6th insurrectionists and those who committed terrible crimes were terrible. That is your way of thinking. You're always looking for an excuse to defend Donald Trump. JD, I appreciate your call. Have a nice day. Next time you call into this show, be talking about the topic that we are discussing and stop your whataboutism. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Zach. Zach is next up on PTL. What's up, Zach?
Hello, Brian. How are you?
Good.
Good to hear. I've been, sorry, I just wanted to say that I've been watching your show on YouTube recently, and I have to say, you are very intelligent. You have a lot of great, what's the word here, information that should spread around the world, honestly. Sorry. I'm a little,
you're good.
I guess you get me a little nervous. Right?
You're good. You're good. Don't worry about
Thanks,
it.
Brian.
Pretend like Donald Trump is not in the room
Brian.
and you're not a woman. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, well, I would never want that guy in. I don't want to be in like 10 feet in the same room as like
Let me ask you a
100
question.
feet or whatever.
I agree. Let me ask you a question. So I just had a MAGA caller call into this show. He called into this show a few weeks ago, and he promised me that if Donald Trump pardoned dangerous criminals that were convicted on January 6th, he would call it out. The first thing he does when he calls into this show is talk about Joe Biden. I mean, you can't have a serious conversation with somebody like that. I mean, what does that make of someone's moral compass and character when talking about Donald Trump and these pardons, which, by the way, nobody can defend? He brings up Joe Biden. What does that say about the caller?
Honestly, I can't even think what the heck are you even talking about. At this point, to me, I feel like we're talking about criminals here. This guy brings up Joe Biden.
And they have a problem with
that.
Joe Biden's family being pardoned. By the way, I don't agree with his pardons, but those family members, other than Hunter Biden, those family members were never charged with a crime. But yet they're totally okay with listen, let me repeat. The leader of the Oath Keepers, who was convicted of seditious conspiracy, was invited as a VIP guest in Las Vegas to Donald Trump's Klan rally over the weekend. But you won't hear JD talking about that. Can you imagine if Joe Biden invited somebody like that to one of his events? Can you imagine what they would say? But they don't even bring it up on this show. They don't want to talk about it.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I agree with you on that. Like, if that were to happen, I can imagine Fox News talking, oh, look at this. Joe Biden brings a criminal into the White House.
Yep.
What is he thinking? Like, oh, my God.
Nick, and Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is invited to the White House, a Hitler lover. And Kanye West, who had praised Adolf Hitler on the Alex Jones show a couple days earlier, showed up to dinner with Nick Fuentes at Mar-a-Lago. It's unbelievable. Thank you for the call, my friend. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Craig. Craig is next up on PTL. Hey, Craig, what's going on?
Hello, Brian. Good to talk to you. Listen, if my phone might get dropped, so I didn't hang up the phone on you.
Okay.
I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Did you see Dr. Phil? He's taking part in helping round up the immigrants. I saw on the Midas Touch where he participated in rounding up this immigrant was from Thailand that they had arrested. Donald Trump, he's just out to make America white again.
Well, yeah, I mean, I absolutely 100. Jasmine Crockett, we did she came on last week, and I asked her, do you agree with me that it means make America white again? Of course, she agreed. What type of country are we living in today? What kind of country are we living in today where there are kids, there are families that are afraid, that are scared? It's just like what the bishop said. They are afraid and they are scared because they don't want their families to be separated. And I don't have a problem with going after violent criminals that happen to be illegal. I don't have a problem with going after those when they're already in this country illegally and they commit violent crimes. I'm okay with them being deported, and I think most of America is. But I am not okay with going into churches and going into synagogues and going into schools. I am not okay with them doing some of that stuff. Now, they're talking a tough game now. I think they've arrested like 1,000 people since Donald Trump took office. But let's see where we're at in a month from now. I think this is probably going to die down a little bit. And I think it's more of sending a message and scare tactics than actually following through. They're not going to be deporting 20 million people. It's not going to happen. Let me ask you all a question. I'll ask you while I have you on. Joe Biden's done raids. Barack Obama did raids. Did they ever invite a media personality for a show like a Dr. Phil, like what Tom Homan is doing? They invited Dr. Phil, that slob, to interview people as they're being deported and arrested. They invited Dr. Phil as if it's some sort of reality TV show. Joe Biden never invited talk show hosts during any raids. Barack Obama never did that. Why do you think Donald Trump's doing that?
I don't know.
I'll tell you why.
Understand.
I'll tell you why. Because it's all for show. That's why. It's all for a show. To show the stupid people that voted for Donald Trump that, hey, look at us. Look at what we are doing. We're going to invite Dr. Phil along with us while we raid homes and deport people. It's all a reality show for Donald Trump and Tom Homan. It's not about real life. That's why. But unfortunately, real lives are at stake here.
Yeah. And Brian, if I may say, I'm a mentally disabled person. I went through special ed my whole life. I have an IQ that's been tested of only 98. But, I was speaking to my older brother, Chris, and he was saying, you know what? People are willfully ignorant.
Let me be very clear. You sound far more intelligent and have a much higher IQ than the average person who voted for Donald Trump. I'll be honest with you right now, my friend. And I appreciate you listening to the show. I appreciate you calling in. You sound like a pretty smart guy to me. And you are welcome to call back anytime, my friend. And I appreciate you. Thank you so much. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Joseph. Joseph is next up on PTL. Hey, Joseph.
How you doing today, Brian?
Good. What's on your mind, Joseph?
Well, I got a couple notes for you, so I'll just rip these off real quick. Number one, JD, bro, hypocrite. That's hypocrite. Just sign hypocrite on the line for all your checks from here on out. All right. Number two, George, don't really have anything nice to say to you until you at least make things right with that veteran you ripped off with the dog. And then number 2 for you, George, the Cheshire Cat called, wants his damn teeth back. Next thing on my list,
I couldn't find it in my.
That I have.
Go ahead.
It's an honest question, and this is one maybe we could roll around for a show. I think it would make for a really interesting delve.
Okay.
And that is, why do we just let anybody vote that's of age?
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of like with the last voter. He's smarter than some of his paperwork would probably give off to say. Right? Yes?
Yeah.
Because we don't just allow people to be like, oh, well, I don't think this works or whatever, so I want to replace this part, and they don't know anything about it, right? Like you don't just ask random strangers like, hey, what do I need to fix my car?
Well, you know what? Listen, let me interject here. This is one area where I sort of agree with Vivek Ramaswamy. Listen, I think Vivek is a slimeball piece of human garbage, but I do agree with him on this one. I think you should have to pass a basic test in order to vote. I really believe that. I really believe that. And I think most of the people that voted for Donald Trump, I would say more than 50%, couldn't pass a basic civics test. I think
just
you should.
A 5th grade one.
Yes.
Just a
thank
5th
you.
grade one.
Yes.
Really simple. Like, what are your branches of government?
Yes.
What do they do for you? How do you get in contact with your representatives? Do you understand how your waterways and your roads function? Do you know where your taxes go?
Yep.
Do you know why we have rules and laws? Like, all these things are important, right? And it seems to me like a lot of the voting populace has no clue.
Let me be very clear.
What is going on?
A 5th grade.
Why are they going to suggest what parts we should replace when they don't even know how the machine works or what it does?
How many people that voted for Donald Trump you think would pass a basic 5th grade test? As you said, branches of government, a basic civics course, and how government works. What
single digits? Single digits.
I don't know exactly, but I'll tell you this. It would be more than 50%. So Donald Trump said he loves the uneducated because he knows.
I was going to say 7%, but I mean, if you want to give him 50 and be nice, that's cool. But I think about 7-8% maybe could pass it, and that's not saying that they passed it because they knew.
Yeah.
It's because multiple choice can sometimes get lucky.
That's true. Maybe I'm being a little bit more generous than I should. But at the same time, I would say that's the last thing that MAGA Republicans want, because let's be honest and let's be clear here, my friend, and I do appreciate your call. The overwhelming majority of people that voted for Donald Trump are uneducated, middle-aged white people. That is just a fact, my friend, and I appreciate your call. Thank you very much. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Terry. Terry is next up on PTL. Hello, Terry.
Hi, Brian. Good afternoon. Amen to your previous caller. Oh, my gosh. And thank you, Brian, for using your platform to call these things out. Absolutely. His ignorant cult continues to support policies that are not in their best interests. And now the rest of us who did not vote for Trump have to suffer.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I'll get your thoughts on this. So we just had George Santos on, and I asked him about this. I'll ask you. Donald Trump is signing an executive order today banning transgenders from serving on the battlefield, which I think is despicable. George Santos said some of these transgenders are on medication that could make them delusional. First of all, they have no idea what percentage that might be true. And if that is true, what about the people that are not transgender? You're telling me they're not on antidepressants and other medications? Of course they are. It is an excuse instead of saying, this is despicable. It's wrong. Don't care what's between your legs. Don't care whether you're a man or a woman or both. If you can pass the basic physical tests and you're willing to risk your life so that we have the freedoms to do what we want to do in this country, then what does it matter whether you're transgender or not? This is another one of Donald Trump's bigoted views of his supporters that love the red meat of attacking transgenders, attacking the gay community, attacking minorities, and attacking brown people. Now, unfortunately, he's putting it and implementing it into policy. Imagine if you are a transgender that has risked your life and gone to war to serve this nation. Maybe even you have physical injuries, but you're still serving. You're still in the military, and they're telling you today or tomorrow or in a week that you have to get lost. You could work at a desk, but we don't want you on the battlefield. It is utterly despicable.
And I would definitely agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
these are the times we are living in today, and I will continue to call it out every day, my dear. And it is good to hear from you, and I appreciate your call. Thank you so much. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Roy. Roy is next up on PTL. Hey, Roy, what's going on, man?
Hey, Brian, how are you today?
Good. What's on your mind, Roy?
Oh, it's been a while since I called. I guess I've been too embarrassed. But anyway, I just want to bring up a couple of things. One, they had a reporter walking around during the inauguration, and he asked several people there who were Trump supporters if they were upset that Martin Luther King wasn't there today. And the 4 people he asked all said it was okay since it was his birthday and he probably had other things to do. They didn't even know who he was.
You're talking about the Jimmy Kimmel show?
No, I didn't see that on Kimmel.
Okay.
But another thing, I read a quote recently that today's political parties do not represent their people. They represent large businesses and corporations.
Right.
And what president do you think said that? You'll be amazed.
You tell me.
Rutherford B. Hayes.
Interesting.
The point I want to really make, though, is that today's Republican Party, except for literally a handful, has turned to absolute crap. They're allowing this man to do damage that's going to take years for this country to recover from.
Sure. I agree.
It's a pity.
I'm very worried.
I went shopping.
I'm very worried.
I went shopping this morning.
Yeah.
And to my amazement, prices have not come down. And to the best of my knowledge, Ukraine and Russia are still at war.
It is
Instead
surprising.
of worrying about naming the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America, why don't he do his goddamn job?
What has he done about inflation? Gas prices have gone up in the last week. Inflation has gone up. What has he done in the last week to help people except for his stupid right-wing talking points that the base seems to love, and that going after transgenders, going after brown people, deport all these immigrants, whether they're violent criminals or not, release white supremacists, January 6th insurrectionist criminals. I mean, what has he actually done to help everyday, normal, everyday Americans? What has he done in the last week?
What you would expect, absolutely nothing.
He hasn't spoken to Vladimir Putin. He hasn't spoken to Zelensky. All he did was put up a tweet on Truth Social in a way saying he's going to put tariffs down on Russia, and the Kremlin has laughed at him. Roy, thank you for the call. It's absurd. Let's go to Homer. Homer is next up on PTL. Hello, Homer.
Hi, Brian. How you doing?
What's up? Doing good, Homer. What's on your mind?
Hey, love to speak with you. I've been trying to get through for a long time. I really appreciate it, and I'll make this short because I love what you do.
Thank you.
I don't hear a lot of so when I hear about the conversation surrounding DEI hires, I'm African American male, well educated, very experienced in my line of work, and
well, Donald Trump doesn't like people like you. He thinks you're a threat to the country. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and I can't understand why. When the conversation about DEI, not saying DEI hasn't had its place, but you get really appalled and offended to where it seems as if the conversation is, okay, if you're not white, if you're not a white American, then you don't belong in this job. You're not qualified for this job, and it's very appalling. And I don't hear a lot of conversation around the fact that, hey, it's a lot of people that's qualified for this job, whether or not. I can tell you, like some of the interviews and things that I've been through, they have been strenuous. And there's no way I would have gotten to the point to where I've been if I didn't know my craft and if I didn't have the skill set required for that job. So I'm just, I just called in to get your view on it. I don't hear a lot of conversation around the fact that we are actually being targeted.
Yeah.
Minorities are actually being targeted for the color of their skin and
well,
for their race.
Listen, he's already, you look at Pete Hegseth, the abuser himself, according to his mom. They're abolishing DEI hires. And they're doing all the things that they want to do. By the way, the guy who is second in command, Pete Hegseth, speaking of being white, the Secretary of Defense who has the nuclear codes, has a tattoo on his body that says 100% white. Can you imagine if Joe Biden had hired somebody black that not only says 100% black tattooed on his body, but also was somebody accused of rape, that was also somebody accused of being an alcoholic, that also paid off a woman $50,000 that accused him of rape. How do you think Republicans would vote based on that? They're such cowards with no backbone, and it's so bad that J.D. Vance had to come out with the tying vote to put this guy in office. Let me be very clear. It's just a matter of time before Pete Hegseth jumps off the wagon, cheats on his 30th wife, and screws up. It's just a matter of time, and then we'll all say we told you so, and then they'll forget it ever happened and put somebody else in there. It's just a matter of time. But going back to your question, it's very simple. If you are a white person in this country, so long as you voted for Donald Trump, they will treat you with dignity and class. In fact, they might even pardon you if you beat police officers. However, if you're not white, they are the ones that they will go after. And if you didn't vote for Donald Trump and you don't support Donald Trump, they will ban you, whether it be banning you on social media. They will try to silence you like they're trying to silence me on TikTok. I'll get to that a little bit later. That is what these people do. And if you're a minority in this country, or you're gay or trans, and you're not a huge Trump supporter, even if you are a Trump supporter, they'll go after you. You're in a lot of trouble the next 4 years. And I'm not going to sit here and say, like, people like you are going to be just fine. Don't worry about it. Relax. Take a deep breath. I can't tell you that because I'm not going to lie to you. Donald Trump and many of his MAGA clan buffoons do not want people like you in this country. Period. That's just the bottom line. Period.
Yeah, and if you allow me one parting thought, one more parting thought, Brian.
Sure.
You know, whether anybody is religious or not, you know, I used to always think, because I'm religious, I believe in God, but I used to always wonder, how would the Antichrist, how would people actually be stupid enough to allow something like the Antichrist to take place? And I'm like, I'm watching this Trump debacle and everything that's going on with Republicans and the hypocrisy and the ignorance, like the willful ignorance of people. I'm like, well, I can see now how the Antichrist is going to take its place. Not calling Trump the Antichrist, but just, you know, just a general school of thought.
I am. I think Donald Trump is the Antichrist. I think Donald Trump is more dangerous than anybody could imagine. I think Donald Trump not only is only in this for himself and his billionaire friends, but he wants to intentionally cause chaos at the hands of a suffering of the American people. This man is mentally deranged, and he is willing to do and say anything to create chaos if it makes himself feel good and anything that makes him look good. I appreciate your call, sir. Thank you very much. Yes, I'll be clear. I believe Donald Trump is the Antichrist. They look up to him as Cheeto Jesus. He is the Antichrist. Why do I say that? Because he believes in doing things, everything against Jesus Christ wanted. I am not a religious person, but I can tell you right now, whatever God you believe in, Jesus, whatever, would be against deporting and separating families of people in this country that are not violent criminals, pardoning and releasing criminals on January 6th who beat police officers and were convicted of seditious conspiracy, attacking minorities, attacking bishops, attacking the gay community, attacking the trans community, attacking anybody and everybody that doesn't kiss the ring of the orange orangutan. Well, guess what? I ain't kissing that ring, and I never will. And apparently Melania Trump ain't kissing any rings or anything of Donald Trump either. Just look at the body language. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Pam. I believe Pam is next up on PTL. What's up, Pam?
Well, hey, good afternoon. Just wanted to let you know, here in Indiana, one of the J6ers that served 6 months and I believe was released back in July just received his full pardon. And he was shot and killed by a Hobart, Indiana police officer yesterday afternoon.
What was he doing?
The only thing they're releasing is it was just a traffic stop, not sure for what. He did have a gun on him, and there was an altercation, and he was subsequently shot and killed, and officers on paid leave until they investigate.
So, Pam, that doesn't surprise me. Let me tell you something. Over the course of the next several years, we're going to hear more of these stories. So they want to talk about Lincoln Riley, which is, by the way, a very tragic and sad story. And my heart goes out to her family. A despicable thug did this. Now, there were also illegals that committed some horrible crimes similar to that, unfortunately, when Trump was president. So my first point is you never hear about those stories. And what happens eventually, this is going to happen, when some of those people who were pardoned, those white supremacist, violent MAGA criminals that were pardoned, hurt other people or, God forbid, murder somebody.
Right.
Donald Trump will not take any responsibility. I guarantee it takes a certain type of individual to storm the Capitol when you know you're not supposed to be there, believe everything Donald Trump says, example, the 2020 election was stolen, which it wasn't, and to take police officers' batons when they are trapped in a room and beat them with their own shields and batons. It takes a certain type of violent individual to commit serious crimes like that. Donald Trump said they already spent enough time in prison. Well, let me tell you somebody that hasn't spent any time in prison that should be dying in prison, and that's Donald Trump. That's the guy who should be in prison for decades, and that's the guy who should never see the light of day. But we're going to hear
accountability.
Exactly. We're going to hear more of these stories about some of these January 6th violent criminals. Many of these people, not all of them, maybe not the majority of them, but a good number of them, I guarantee you, will be put back in jail for other crimes that they will commit while they are free.
Yep.
Guaranteed. Put a guaranteed postage stamp on it, my dear. I appreciate your call, Pam. Thank you. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Jerry. Jerry is next up on PTL. Hello, Jerry.
Hi. How you doing, Shapiro?
You can call me Brian.
Brian.
I'm not that old yet. But go ahead, Jerry.
Listen, I'm calling from Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yep.
And I've been here in the store. My heart goes out to the people of California.
Mm-hmm.
I have some ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, California is the fourth economic in the world. They don't need nothing from the Trump. They can do it themselves.
Jerry, can I ask you something? When he spoke about people of Mexican descent, he talked about people like you, and he said you guys are rapists and bad people, and I suppose some of you are good people. What would you say to Donald Trump? That's what he thinks about people like you.
I will tell him he is a rapist. He is a felon. He should be deported.
Mm-hmm.
He is the son of immigrants.
Right.
So if he wants to deport all Mexicans, he should be deported to wherever he's.
Put him. I think they should deport Donald Trump to Russia. But the problem is, I don't think he's allowed to fly there. I don't know. I could be. He is a convicted felon. But you're right. And I ask you that question, right, Jerry, because you look at his attacks on minorities and typically those that live in Mexico, whether you're legal or not. Most of the people that are crossing the border are not bad people. Yes, there are some. Yes, there are always going to be bad people in every walk of life, right? Some people that cross the border illegally are not good people. They have bad intentions. I don't want those people here. But the overwhelming majority of people, whether they're from Mexico, wherever they're from, would I like them to come here legally? Of course. But the overwhelming majority of these people that are seeking asylum are not bad people. They help our economy. They do the jobs that most Americans are not willing to do, certainly not for the wages that these people are getting paid. But yet, they're making it okay to literally raid churches and synagogues, to go into schools. He has signed executive orders to make that okay. I don't recognize the country that I live in anymore, Jerry. I don't.
No, he's talking about Putin is destroying Russia. He also destroying the U.S.
Yeah.
He needs to look. He wants to be a king, and his cabinet is people who doesn't have any experience. Excuse my English.
No, you're doing fine. Your English is far better than most MAGA supporters. Trust me, Jerry. Jerry, I want to ask you one more question, Jerry. Can you explain to the MAGA cult and to Trump bigots out there what it is like for some families in Mexico to feel like they have no other choice than to try to cross the border, whether it be, illegally or not? Can you explain to people what that feels like to be a resident of Mexico? Some people that feel like they have no other choice, because many of these people have the blinders on and they don't understand. Can you explain to them what that must be like?
In Mexico, there's not a lot of of opportunities for work or to get. I mean, people from Mexico make about $10 a week.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make $10 an hour in the fields, that's pretty good. But I crossed the border illegally. Not, and then in 1987, I became legal because of Ronald Reagan. And then I worked my ass off to get where I am now.
And you're not a rapist. You're not a rapist. You're not a felon.
No.
You're not a bad person.
No.
You're a person.
I don't even have a ticket in my license.
So you were making $10 a week.
No. I was working.
Yeah.
I started making $2.60 an hour.
Wow.
I was working at a meat factory, a meat cutter place, and making $2.69 an hour.
And what made you decide to move back to Mexico?
Because of the economy is better. Mm-hmm. Trump has never talked about the economy right now because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
That's for sure.
Stupid mega people hire him.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, Jerry, I'm really glad that you called in. I'm glad that you are an example, at least to me in my eyes, of why there are people in Mexico that are willing to cross the border illegally for a better life for themselves and their family. You can't really support a family on $10 a week. And I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate you calling in, and I am honored that there are people in Mexico that listen to the show that are willing to call in, Jerry. And I'd love for you to call back, and I wish you the best of luck, my friend. You sound like a great guy, and I wish you the best. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Yvonne. Yvonne is next up on PTL. What's up, Yvonne?
Hi, Brian. How are you doing?
Hey, good.
It was nice to hear the guy, Jerry from Mexico. That was nice.
That was
to hear him.
I agree.
I wanted to say a couple things.
Sure.
You know how Trump always says they're dumping people from the insane asylums into your country?
That's a lie, by the way.
Of course it's a lie, but I think he's got it mixed up. I think he doesn't understand what an asylum seeker is.
He doesn't. He thinks an asylum seeker is someone that comes from the asylum. I think you're right.
Yes.
I think you're right.
Every time he says it, that's what I think he's talking about.
He thinks they're coming from asylum psychiatric wards. He's so stupid. I think you're right. I think you're onto something there. I think you're right.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about was WHO, and along with that, he canceled or he said that people from your health organization weren't allowed to send out memos or information about health problems or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you recall?
I do.
That's part of one of the things he signed.
I do.
Okay, the WHO, that you're no longer, I think it takes a year before you're out of it, so you guys are still in it.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I watch on YouTube news programs from around the world because I kind of want to know what's going on in the world as well. And it's hard to get world news in North America because it's all about Trump every day, all day long. So there was a thing going on in China where their emergency rooms were full of people because it's flu season, of course. There was a lot of people with flu, a lot of people with, COVID and another respiratory type illness that is common, but it's not common for the numbers that were showing up at the emergency wards all across this area in China. And I listen to the news from Germany, I listen to the news from India, I listen to Poland, news from Poland as well. and they all reported on this.
Yep.
But nothing here in North America was reporting on this issue they were having in their emergency rooms in China, and that kind of scared me.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of things that scare me, and that would be one of them. I think you're actually onto something when you said that when he talks about asylum seekers, Donald Trump probably thinks they're coming from the mental asylum. If that's the case, then Donald Trump has been an asylum seeker his entire life, and many of his fascist and lunatic supporters. 702, thank you for the call, my dear. Before we take another call, we have to take a break. I went a little long there. If you're just joining us, we missed a lot. You missed a lot. First segment of the show, we did about a 20-minute interview or so with the former congressman out of New York, George Santos. Interesting conversation. I know many of you don't agree with him on a lot of things. Neither do I. But it was an interesting conversation. So I ask you to go on YouTube later today. We'll repost the interview. It was interesting. He did promise me a free cameo, too. So I'm looking forward to that. And we went into Donald Trump, the Orange Orangutans Klan visit, the Klan rally he held in Las Vegas over the weekend. That's exactly what it was. He said a lot of crazy things. As always, he invited the leader of the Oath Keepers to be a VIP. He said America was at its wealthiest in the 1800s. He said he may just have no taxes altogether. He called the January 6ers, who he pardoned, hostages. He said he was happy he pulled America out of WHO and the Paris Climate Agreement. I mean, there's so many crazy things he said over the weekend. He's banned transgenders now from serving on the battlefield, which I find utterly despicable. So we're talking about that as well. So we're going to take some more phone calls on the other side. I get a lot of people every day asking me, how do I get more involved in your show? How can I support what you do? Well, here's the best thing you can do. Please check out my website, which is fairly new. It's been around for about 6 or 7 months, pushingthelimits.live, where you can buy merchandise on there. Signing up for my YouTube page is huge if you can do that, at PTL Radio Show. I'm probably going to do a little bit on TikTok tomorrow because they are censoring people like me, and they are censoring people that are anti-Donald Trump. So we'll probably do more about that tomorrow. I don't think I want to get into that today. But I do still have TikTok, at PTL Radio Show. But more importantly, subscribe to my YouTube page. It's free, at PTL Radio Show. You go on my website, pushingthelimits.live, and you can actually buy merchandise on there. We sell Hertz, not the rental car. We sell shirts, beanies, hats, so on and so forth. If you want to do that, if you don't want to buy merchandise, you go to my website, pushingthelimits.live, and you can make a donation. There's a donation button right on the front page. Doesn't matter. Whatever you can afford, we appreciate it. Check us out at pushingthelimits.live, and also my thanks to the official gaming bar of the PTL Radio Show, which is Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Fleming & Jones, home of the Pass the Puck contest, where you could win up to $500 in free slot play during a Vegas Golden Knights hockey game. Many other promotions there during the week and on the weekends as well. Great food, great atmosphere. Check them out. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. We're going to take a quick break. We'll take some more of your phone calls on the other side at 702-221-7283. We'll be back in 90 seconds. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call, 702-763-57 5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check him out at radioyou101.com.
All right, welcome back. It is PTL on a Monday. I'm always honest with all of you when it comes to everything, including the people that I'm working on getting on the show. I'm still working on Nancy Mace. And no, I'm not talking about finding out whether she's a man or a woman. I'm talking about trying to get her on the show. Still speaking with her people. Sometimes you got to work them a little bit, man, but trying to get Nancy Mace on the program. We got some. There's a chance Donald Trump might be joining us on the show tomorrow. I'm just saying. There is a chance that Donald J. Trump could be joining us momentarily to start the show tomorrow. So we're working on that. Throughout the remainder of the week, reality TV star and huge MAGA supporter, Brett Raymer is going to be joining us. Quick story before we get back to the calls. So I was at the AVN Expo over the weekend. That is the Adult Entertainment Awards. It's a tough job, but somebody has to do it. And a very popular porn star looks at me and says, "Brian." I look over and I don't really recognize her, but one day she did my show like 4 or 5 years ago. She's a very popular porn star. I'm going to keep it a secret until she joins us on the show next week. For now, anyway. So this porn star looks at me and she said, "Hey, I was just featured on Fox News." I said, "Why were you featured on Fox News?" She goes, "Because I offered to service all the firefighters in California fighting the fires, and I'm willing to put out their fire." And I said, "Oh, really?" So I guess Fox News did a segment about this. She's a MAGA porn star, and she will be joining us on the show next week. So that should be somewhat entertaining. We have fun on this show from time to time. We had Pam Bondi, also known as Nicole Mitchell. It's so funny when I get these impersonators to come on, whether they're professionals or not, and people get so upset. "Brian, you duped us." Wow. It's called satire humor, folks. Get used to it. I do it on the show a lot. Anyway, I will get back to the calls now at 702-221-7283. Let's go to Al. Al is next up on PTL. Hello, Al.
Hey, how you doing, man? Hey, I was going to tell you, I'm 100% Latino, and I don't have a problem with Pete Hegseth having a tattoo that says he's 100% white.
Okay.
What's wrong with that?
Okay, so if you don't have a problem with him saying he's 100% white, do you have a problem with him paying off a woman $50,000 that claimed that he raped her? Do you have a problem with multiple people that he worked?
We're not talking about
Hold
that.
on, I'm talking. Yeah, you brought. Hold on.
100% white.
Al,
What's
I need
wrong
you to
with that?
focus. Al, I need you to focus. We disagree. I think when you have a tattoo that says 100% white, and when you look at his past history, I think he has white supremacist tendencies. Now, we will agree to disagree on that. If that was the only thing that I had a problem with Pete Hegseth, I'd be okay with him still being the Secretary of Defense. Hold on. There's a reason why I say that, Al. We can agree to disagree on a 100% white tattoo. That's totally fine. I have a problem with all the people that claim that he had to be carried out of bars, that he showed up to work drunk. His own mother called him a woman abuser. You know why?
Yeah.
Because he is. He paid off a woman that claimed that he raped her. He cheated on his first wife with his second wife, cheated on his second wife with a Fox News executive, had a baby with her while he was still married to his second wife, cheated on his third wife. I want better people in office. He couldn't even handle an organization in running 100 people. What makes you believe that he'll be a great Secretary of Defense? And what is one of the first things that he does? He talks about God because he's a phony. And one of the first things that he implements, because Donald Trump tells him to, is to ban transgenders from serving on the battlefield. I have far more problems with all those other things that I mentioned than a tattoo that says 100% white. Do you defend all those other things?
Okay, well, let me ask you this. It sounds like you're pivoting. All I called in was I have no problems with him having 100% white, a person having 100% black, 100% Latino.
And I am not
proud of who you are and what your ethnicity
I understand, Al.
That's
You're
what
the
I'm
one,
talking about.
Al.
I don't care about all the other stuff.
Al,
I just want to clarify
that's the problem.
If there's white people that want to put that tattoo, I don't have a problem with that.
Al, that's the problem. First of all, I don't pivot. I told you I disagree with you, and you are entitled to your opinion. I also
that's fine.
Hold on.
That's fine.
Hold on.
Well, my
hold on.
message- okay,
Hold
that's
on.
fine.
Hold
Go
on.
ahead.
I also told you that is not my only issue. And if it was, I wouldn't be talking about Pete Hegseth now. My issue is all the other stuff. So you're telling me now that
about the other stuff. Okay,
yes,
that's fine. About
yes.
the other stuff, I didn't call about that. All I called about my message to all you white people.
Al.
Hey, white people, you want to put out a tattoo that says 100% white? I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, do you have a problem with any of the other stuff I mentioned?
I haven't read. I'm sorry. I'm going to do a Pam Bundy on you or a Pam whatever.
No, you're not going to.
I have to look into it.
No, you don't have to. No, you don't have to look into it. I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you some
anyways,
facts. No. It's not okay. No, you're not going to pivot. You're not going to get out of this, Al. Who do you think I am here, Al? A man who's the Secretary of Defense, who has our nuclear codes, paid off a woman $50,000 to shut her up after she claimed that he raped her, one at a time. Do you have a problem with that? You don't have to look into it. He paid her $50,000 to shut her up. Al, do you have a problem with that? Yes or no?
I don't have an opinion on that.
What do you mean you don't have an opinion on it? He paid off a woman $50,000 to shut her up in an NDA who claimed that he raped her. How can you not have an opinion on that, but an opinion about a tattoo? He's the Secretary of Defense whose own mother said that he is a woman abuser. What do you mean you don't have an opinion on that? That is a cowardly answer, Al. And he hung up the phone. What a coward. What a coward. Al, you're a coward. You must have dodged the military multiple times as well. Cowards vote for cowards. 702-221-7283. Guy calls in and defends Pete Hegseth. I don't have a problem with his 100% white tattoo. Okay, fine. Do you have a problem with him paying off women who claim that he raped them? I don't have an opinion on that. Give me a frickin' break. Let's go to Anna. Anna is next up on PTL. What's up, Anna?
Hi, Brian. I just wanted to bring to some of these people's attentions that call you, these mega people, about the real world consequences that people are facing. I have an adult son who is dating a Hispanic woman, and I'm sorry, I'm trying not to cry, but he called me last night in a panic, like anxiety, worrying about what's going to happen to her or her family. And she has a little son who's 7, and he was not born here, but he is here on a green card. He is very, very scared that this little guy is going to get, who knows what, taken from school. I don't know. And I try to reassure him that, we're dealing with a clown show, blah, 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 blah. But it's very scary. And what I think, my whole thing is, if they do start snatching these kids up from schools or doing whatever the God knows what, how are they going to track these children and know who has them or where they're going or any of this stuff? They were so unorganized the first time.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to get a little more background from you. So I just want to get this story right. Your son is dating a Hispanic woman who is not
2 years now,
and she doesn't have the proper paperwork. Is that accurate?
No, she's a citizen.
Okay.
But her mom is not.
Okay, so her
she's
mom,
one
I
of
understand.
those citizenship. Yeah.
Understood. So her mom is not a citizen. How long has your son been dating this lady for?
2 years.
Okay, and is it true when you're talking about a child, you're talking about your son's girlfriend who has a child in school? Is that accurate?
Yes, he's 7 years old, and he just got brought here from Mexico.
Okay,
he was born in Mexico.
Understood. I wanted to get the story right. Now, your son's girlfriend, her mom doesn't have the proper paperwork, and obviously they're all very scared, and rightfully so. Your son is scared as well because they're afraid that her family is going to be separated and or deported. And so that makes complete sense to me. And by the way, I'm very sorry for what you and her family are going through. It's horrible. See, if the mother did not commit any serious crimes when she is here, they should not be focused on these kinds of people. And
I understand.
What did her grandson ever do? Right? What did her daughter ever do? I mean, can you explain to people firsthand knowledge what you and your son are going through? Forget about even your son's girlfriend and their family and the hell that they are going through. What about your family as well and what you guys are having to go through?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of my family is MAGA.
Oh, no.
So for my son to come around and know that a lot of his own family voted to possibly have this happen to him is disgusting, and it's very, very trying. He has actually started building a place in his garage to house them if they need to hide.
Wow.
Basically.
Wow.
Like, we are preparing for Germany and the hiding of the Jews.
Wow.
He's 26 years old. He's the sweetest kid. I have 4 children. They're all great kids. They all just love anybody. You know, I raise them to be normal people. Like, I don't know. But it's so scary. His anxiety has tripled.
Oh, I bet. Can I ask you, you say members of your family are MAGA. When you explain to your family members what your son is going through, what your son's girlfriend's family is going through, what do they say?
They do not care. Plain and simple. They think, a lot of them will say that, well, they're not criminals, so they'll be okay. Or, the mom should have come here. She's had time to make herself legal. It's not always that simple. I throw back to them. You wouldn't be able to pass a test to be a citizen in this country because you people are that stupid. But I digress.
Well, I'm sorry. Let me just say that I'm very sorry what your family and what her family is going through. Doesn't sound like you or them. They don't deserve this. Unfortunately, sometimes people vote against their self-interest, but it sounds like there are some members of your family in MAGA that don't care. They don't care about your son. They don't care about his well-being. Nope. They don't care about his girlfriend. They don't care about her family. All they care about is make America white again, and they don't want brown people in this country. And unfortunately, because of those bigots and morons, many of whom voted for Donald Trump, your family and her family are struggling and are suffering for it. I'd like you to please do me a favor and give me an update. Please call me back. And if there's anything we can do to help you and your family and her family, please let us know and please give us an update, okay?
Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate it. I love your show. I'm a new listener, and I listen every day.
Well, that means
I love what you're doing, and keep it up.
Well, that means a lot to
You give me the fight. You give me the power to fight against my own family, which is disgusting. I shouldn't have to do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to support my son. I'm going to support his girlfriend, her little guy. I love him. He's adorable. And this is just what we're going to have to deal with, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I can't even begin to tell you how much that means to me. And I think you sound like a wonderful woman and a great mom that cares about her son. And my heart goes out to you. It really does.
Thank you, Brian.
Your son is welcome to call into the show as well and share his story anytime, my dear. And I really do appreciate you. Thank you. That get me a little choked up here. But I appreciate those kind words. And I'm sorry for what you're going through. Ladies and gentlemen, that woman is going through. Her son is going through. Her son's girlfriend is going through what so many families in this country are going through because Donald Trump and his MAGA base are a bunch of bigoted pieces of human garbage. They're the ones who should be deported, not the good people in this country, some of whom might not have the proper paperwork, that have not committed violent crimes. The people who should be deported are the January 6th insurrectionists. The people who should be deported are the people that care more about kissing the ring to Donald Trump than doing what's right for the American people. Those are the ones that should be deported. Those are the rapists, and those are the bad people, and I suppose some of them are good people. No, I don't. If you're in the MAGA nation, chances are you are not a good person. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on PTL. Hey, Paul, what's going on?
Man, it breaks my heart, man. These people literally are the most selfish bastards on the face of the planet. They only care about themselves. It's absolutely gut-wrenching how much they care about nobody else. It's just so sad.
It is. It is.
I just wanted to call in. Jesse Waters the other day made a comment. I know this is a little off topic, but it's kind of related to this. Did you see this video where he made of Doug Emhoff shopping with Kamala Harris? Did you see this?
So Paul, not only did I see it, but I have talked about it. And in MAGA world, if you go to a convenience store, in this case, a grocery store with your wife, and just go food shopping and say hello to people, somehow that's not normal. When was the last time that Donald Trump went into a market or a mall or anywhere with his contractual wife? This is a normal couple that is doing something normal, and somehow MAGA have a problem with that. I mean, and Jesse Waters is attacking them for it like it's weird or something. It makes no sense.
Because it does. It's the male patriarchy, Brian.
Yeah.
Like, I do all the grocery shopping in my house. I cook. I do the dishes. I do the washer dryer. I put the laundry up. I wash my kids when my wife goes on vacation. Like, for these guys, somehow that makes me some kind of a sissy lala man. Like,
yep.
Crying is like some weakness to these guys. Like, I don't understand how we've just raised all these people to have, like, if you cry, you're some kind of a punk, right? But if I'm married to my wife for 23 years, that doesn't make me a real man. But if I cheat on my wife with a porn star, that means I get a notch in my belt. Like, I don't understand. I just think that masculinity in this country is somebody like Dana White who slaps his wife, or Joe Rogan who supports a rapist. Yep. Like, I view a real man is saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to vote for a rapist. Hey, I'm not going to vote for a guy that insults women. I'm not going to support a guy that slaps women. Like, that's what a real man is. And I think Jesse Waters probably just has a special sock at home and sleeps on the couch because he has such a crappy marriage.
Jesse Waters is from my hometown. He was born and raised, I know this for a fact, a very wealthy, rich, white supremacist sympathizer bigot. Jesse Waters is a bad, talentless squeal. He sounds like a rat when he talks on the radio. He literally has no talent. He just reads scripts. And this is who Fox News wants to be there. They want misogynist pigs who wear the Donald Trump knee pads 24/7. The Roger Ailes people who hired people like this, they're bad people. They're misogynist pigs. They're bigots. They're racist. They treat women like crap. And it goes all the way to the top to Donald J. Trump.
Can I just say this to someone like a Nelly, and he still doesn't understand why people are in outrage? Nelly, I'll tell you why. Because if Donald Trump had raped your mom, your daughter, your sister, your aunt, or your grandma, you and I both know, Brian, you sure in the hell wouldn't have gone to that inauguration and sung it. You didn't care about women. You didn't care about how he treated women. You didn't care about felonies. You didn't care about anything. Nelly is nothing more than a common street whore who sold out his morality for a couple of dollars.
Paul, you're not going to hear.
That's what's wrong with men in this country.
Paul, I agree with you. You're not going to hear an argument for me, my friend. It's okay for James Woods to cry on CNN claiming that he lost his home, when, by the way, he didn't. That's okay. But God forbid if Tim Walz's son, Gus, cries because he loves his dad, also special needs. Doesn't matter whether he's special needs or not. Somehow that's awful. These are bad people. And I know, guys, I keep going in circles here. But I'm going to keep saying it over and over and over again because I've had it with these people. Many in Donald Trump's base, his base, are very dumb, uneducated, ill-informed white people that are bigoted in nature, that are misogynist pigs, and don't care about anybody else but themselves. Period. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. All right. I believe our next phone call is Tiffany. I believe Tiffany is next up on PTL. Hi, Tiffany. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian.
Hey.
You know what? You crack me up so much when you be calling Trump an orange orangutan. This is so hilarious and entertaining. I really appreciate it. So I wanted to hop in here and get me some jabs in real quick because I think that he is evil incarnate. And his base is abominable hypocrite. Okay? And especially that Tom Homan dude who I saw on doing an interview with someone, and the interviewer asked him about going into schools and the way that he just demonized the children, talking about they, have these crazy ass weapons. Sorry for cussing. And it hits hard for me being an African American woman and mother, and we are very familiar with how our children they are demonized the way that they are, especially our young Black boys. And it breaks my heart to hear him speak that way about another child. It's crazy. He is a mean-spirited, and heartless individual. And J.D. Vance is a gaslighting, spineless bootlicker and a despicable individual. I just to listen, and actually a lot of the Republicans who backed up Trump, they are that same exact way, to just for them to sit in our face and play in our face the way that they have done and just endorse the bull crap from this orange orangutan. It is deeply offensive. It is deeply offensive to my intelligence. And then the other thing is this Pete Hegseth dude coming into that position, having that kind of power and that kind of authority in this country. You know, I really stayed away from a lot of this stuff, because I live in a real red state. I live in a real red state, Nebraska. And so it's all around me. Somehow I've been able to filter out the bigotry and still be able to live my life. But this time I'm like, you know what? On these apps like Nextdoor, these are people in your neighborhood, right? Like, I only see white people, honestly, when I go to work, and I work from home. So it's like we're online now, but we don't really have conversations to talk about real shit. And so this was an opportunity for us to talk about stuff. And so I'm talking about it.
But here's the problem. But here's the problem. Many of these MAGA morons cannot defend any of their positions, and they literally can't name one or two policies of Donald Trump that they like. And when they blast Democrats, they literally can't name specific policies that they don't like. And the bottom line is, most people in this country, they care about the issue of abortion, where we know Donald Trump is responsible for half the country, it being illegal for a woman's right to choose what they want to do with their bodies. Most people in this country, one of their top 3 issues is health care. Donald Trump still says he has concepts of a plan. And then they talk about the economy, and they talk about the war in the Ukraine, and Donald Trump hasn't addressed any of that in the last week. He hasn't even said it. He hasn't even talked about it. And he's already backtracked on it. First, it was 24 hours that we're going to end the war in the Ukraine, and then he says 6 months now. And he hasn't even brought up inflation. In fact, inflation has gone up. Gas prices have gone up in the last week. I mean, they vote against their own self-interest. Again, his supporters, many of them in his base of supporters, are some of the dumbest people that America has to offer.
They are silly and stupid. And so the way that I tried to approach it by just making posts, and they weren't real disrespectful, because I don't think people will listen to you if you're being disrespectful to them. But to point out facts, to point out truth, to really talk about things that we all actually have in common. And I always say, listen, I'm not on welfare, so don't make the judgment. I have a mortgage, I have a 401k, and I've been in my job for 20 years. I said, so there's things that matter to me, and not just me, but my family and people that I love. And I would say these things, and I would share what's really going on, and they would just blast me. They blasted me so much to the point where they reported my account so bad that I ended up getting suspended from Nextdoor.
I'm sorry, my dear, that happened to you. I'm going to do a segment tomorrow about TikTok. And I'm going to talk about what they've personally done to me just in the last week. And there's a guy by the name of Ryan Sheed. He's one of the most popular left-leaning podcasters around. And I had a conversation with him, and we're going to be doing a space on Thursday night. Speaking of, going after anti-MAGA people, X does the same thing. YouTube is actually one of the best at allowing people to actually have free speech without putting out medical misinformation, which I can appreciate with them. I think YouTube's actually one of the best. They let you share your opinions so long as you're not hateful or racist, unlike X. I think YouTube actually, for the most part, does a really good job. So I'm going to be doing a space with Ryan Sheed this Thursday night, and we're going to be talking about what some social media platforms like X and like TikTok have done to him and what they've done to me. I'm going to talk about this at length tomorrow because I've been in contact with the TikTok people. Something happened when the owner of TikTok was invited to the White House for that inauguration. Something happened with their algorithms. Just like after Donald Trump was elected, something happened with the way they pay people on X. Something happened with the algorithms on TikTok. And I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. Ryan Sheed is going to be joining me in a space we're both going to host Thursday night. I'll give you guys more information on that in the next couple days. I hope you can all join us. It'll be sometime Thursday night. Let's go to Christina. Christina's next up on PTL. What's up, Christina? Thanks for calling in.
Hi, I'm sorry. I caught the show a little bit late because I'm a little bit under the weather. So I'm hoping I'm on topic. But when I was a little girl, my Baba, I used to trace these numbers that she had on her arm. I'm going to get emotional. But I always asked her, I said, Baba, what is this? And she would break down and she said, no talk. She couldn't talk to me about it then. So she wrote me a long letter and she explained to me what she went through and what those numbers meant. So for Christmas this year, it was the biggest turnout I've ever had in my family. And I gave him a copy of the letter. And then I gave him a copy of the fact that we are second generation undocumented immigrants. My family is mainly MAGA, which everybody, my parents and everybody's rolling around in their graves over this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I fight with them constantly over just a normal conversation. But I presented them with all the documents proving that, we are second generational undocumented immigrants, basically.
Yeah.
And my Baba fled to this country because of the Nazis.
Right.
But they don't want to understand that that's what birthright citizenship
No, but
is.
listen,
It's
Christina,
protecting us.
Christina, I agree with you. They don't want to understand anything else other than their own path. They don't want to understand anything else other than life through their own lenses. It's just like when a Tim Scott or somebody says, I've been pulled over 10 times in the last year because of the color of my skin. White people that are MAGA supporters don't empathize with others. It could be minorities. It could be immigrants. It could be black people. They don't want to put themselves in somebody else's shoes. A normal, decent human being with empathy will say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Tell me more. I want to learn from somebody like you. A typical MAGA supporter will say, systemic racism doesn't exist. I haven't had to deal with it, even though I'm a white guy. So I'm going to assume that you haven't had to deal with it either. Thank you for your story, my dear. And I will always support people like you. Let's go to Blythe. Blythe is next up on PTL. Hello, Blythe.
Yes. Hi. Is this Brian?
Yes. Go right ahead.
But I totally agree 1,000% with what you were just saying to her. That is very true. It's hard for these people to ever identify with anything other than what they suffer through. Everything is such a huge dilemma for them. And I can't tell you how many times I've prayed that this city could, as a whole, I was born and raised, just a little backstory, here in Vegas. And I do know a lot of things growing up here as a child. I'm third generation native. I'm LDS, raised LDS. I obviously not any longer practicing. But huge problem that I seem to see. I personally have never met my biological father. He is not ethnic. I got my 23andMe. Turns out I am completely Caucasian, yet I have a very tan skin tone. I always have. I always will. People always assume I'm my Latina or some sort of black. My lips are very big. Not that I care, not that it matters, but growing up, I never understood why when I would get pulled over with my friends and girlfriends, and sometimes they'd be, heaven forbid, smoking some kind of pot or whatnot, I would always panic because I'd be the one pulled out of the car. Not saying anything against drugs, but it wouldn't be me with it. Yet I was treated as such. And then I would realize, wait a minute, I'm the only one that's not. Well, I'm white too. And then, of course, it's a totally different dilemma. So as far as that goes, I get what you're saying. People that say they're pulled over unjustly because of their color of skin, everybody's got problems, okay? Nobody has problems if you don't get on the wrong side of the law. I support the police force, but at the same time,
right, but,
I feel like there's a...
But I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're right. Everybody has problems. The issue that I have is that people that don't empathize with others that might have different problems.
Yes.
And that's the issue that I have with so many of these maggots out there is they only see life through their own lens, and they don't see that there are others out there that are criticized or treated differently because of the color of their skin, because of their sexuality. And those are people that I have no respect for, and I wish those kinds of people would be deported, quite frankly. Put them all in a different MAGA country. You know what?
Yes.
They want island. Yeah, invite everybody from Greenland, the good people of Greenland, Bring them into this country and let's treat them great. And then let's turn Greenland into MAGA world and put them in there and let it be a concentration camp for MAGA supporters, for all I care.
All these DACA children that are actually children that, if you ask me, have every right to be here and have bright futures, have them all take the place of these MAGA people.
I'm
and have all the MAGA people.
I'm with you, my dear. My dear, I'm with you. Let's deport all these maggots. I'm with you. Let's get Tom Homan 2.0. Let's deport maggots. All right. So tomorrow on the program, there is a very good opportunity and a chance that we could have Donald Trump joining us in our first segment. You're not going to want to miss that. My thanks to George Santos. If you missed my interview live with George Santos today, we will be reposting it on my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show, within a few hours. We'll repost that interview. I appreciate George coming on. Don't agree with him on a lot of stuff. I think he's said a lot of stupid things in the past. He's done some stupid things, maybe criminal. I don't know. But I do appreciate the fact that he was at least willing to come on and talk to me. So I do appreciate that. And so we have some very special guests lining up for the rest of the week. We had Jasmine Crockett on last week. She's going to be joining us again. Still working on Nancy Mace. I don't think she wants to be challenged, but I think she's challenged herself. But we will hopefully get Nancy Mace on the show this week. I'm trying, folks. I'm trying. Please check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. That's pushingthelimits.live. If you want to support what we do here, it's an independently owned radio show. Check out the website, subscribe to the YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. And even better, you can buy merchandise up there and you can make donations, pushingthelimits.live. And of course, my good friends at Jackson's Bar and Grill, the official gaming bar of the PTL Radio Show, home of the winning up to $500 free slot play pass the puck contest during Vegas Golden Knights hockey games. Check them out, Jackson's Bar and Grill. We'll be back at it tomorrow, same time, same place. If you missed my interview with George Santos, we're going to be posting that on YouTube in a few hours, a little bit later today. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. Thanks to Numbchuck. We will see you tomorrow.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you could be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most